Hello there. Today we're going to sew the tree block number 1 for the Forest Flora Quilt. No, the Forest Flora Quilt. Oh boy, I'm off to a good start. Okay, so here you can see I have all of my pieces that I've cut laid out for this block. And the first thing we're going to do is the ST method, which is the sew and trim a half square triangle unit. So on every one of those green blocks, I have drawn a diagonal line from corner to corner, and then right sides together with the black. I'm now stitching, which you can't really see, but trust me, I'm stitching a 1/4 inch on either side of that drawn pencil line. Now I do this for the very first block because I'm going to cut and press and measure it to make sure my seam allowance is right and the block is coming out to the right size. And then once I know that, I will chain piece the rest of them, which you'll see in a minute. So here I am cutting down the drawn line. And I'm pressing it. And now I'm checking the measurement. So they should measure 2.5 inches. And I'm satisfied with that. So now I'm going to chain piece the rest. So I'm going to go all the way down one side and then add the blocks as I go, not clipping the thread, so it'll make a long chain. And I'm going to speed this up for you. So this is the final seam for this direction. And now you'll see I'm going to pull up the chain and go down the other side. And once again, I'm going to speed it up. Okay, and here I am just clipping the threads between each of them. And this time, rather than use a scissors, I am going to just use my rotary cutter and cut right down that pencil line. Okay, I have all my half square triangles pressed, and I have step 2 laid out in the order that the pieces are going to be sewn together. And here I have the first row sewn, and you can see I have the seams all pressed in one direction. And once again, I'm going to speed this up for you. And here I'm just checking to see which way I pressed the seams in the former row, so that I press them in the opposite direction on this row. And here you see step 2 all finished. Next we're going to sew the tree trunk unit, although we don't call it that in the pattern. I'm just calling it that right now. So here I have the pieces laid out, and I am going to stitch them together. And then once they're stitched and pressed, I'm going to actually trim it, because as you can see by the photo in the upper right corner, there's a point to the bottom of the tree. So hang on a minute and I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so here's the sewn and pressed unit, and now I'm just going to trim off the bottom of that tree trunk so that it matches the seam, or not the seam, the block edge. Just ignore the purple tape, it's from a previous project. And next I'm going to sew step 2 and step 3 together by flipping that over, lining it up, and sewing the seam. We're almost done with this block. So, so here we are ready for step 4. And when I laid it on my mat, I was a little concerned because the right hand edge is a little wonky. And but then when I looked at the measurements, I realized, oh, that's actually kind of excess there. So I'm going to line up my strip and leave that excess show. We can always trim it later. I'd rather have excess than not enough. So here we go. And you also may have noticed that my corners don't match on the top row. Guess why? Because I didn't pin it. I thought, oh, this is just a short row. I don't have to pin it. Ha! So, yeah, I pinned after that, and the rest of them are much better aligned. So, pin or don't pin. It's up to you. And now I'm stitching the little blue square to the green strip, and we're almost done. So again, you'll notice as we go forward here, I am lining up the seam of the blue square and the strip with the other seam and nesting those two. And then I notice, oh, it's the bottom block is longer, but guess what? That was part of that wonkiness. So I'm just going to line up the seam and sew it, and then here you can see I'm checking to make sure that it's actually bigger than bigger than 12.5 inches, which is what it should be when it's in the unfinished block size. So I feel safe, and I'm going to sew that on and complete this block. So here you can see I'm all set up to trim this to a perfect 12.5-inch block, and I'm very happy with how this turned out. This is the first time I've sewn it. It was part of the pattern testing, and overall it went together really well. It took me about an hour, but that's because I had to do some ripping. I forgot, you know, at times that you put the right sides together when you sew a half square triangle. Oops. So I did tear those apart and redo them. So it shouldn't take you as long as it took me, but that's about how long it took, even though I think the video says like 12 minutes. It's actually a little longer. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video, even though I gave away my secrets about my mistakes. I hope you enjoy sewing this pattern. I really, truly love how it came out, and it looks intimidating, but it really isn't. So enjoy. Happy sewing. Thank you for purchasing my pattern.